I'm Marc Adebesin. I'm a film director and a producer. I'm also a project manager, a service designer. There's a lot of things I do, but in a nutshell, that's about it about me for now.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Mhm.
Yes. We did a bit of a research about you anyway before the interview. We noticed you're also a member of the UK Producers Guild. Um, what exactly do you do? I actually didn't know about the guild till I actually started researching more about the industry and all that. So,
Mm.
in the UK Producers Guild, what's your role there?
At the moment, I would call myself the acting publicity secretary for now because we should have done an election way back in March, but because
Yeah.
of the pandemic, obviously we couldn't conduct that interview, that election. So everything has been shifted backwards for now, and nothing can happen for now.
Oh, okay, that's beautiful. So, in the UK's Producers Guild, what is it about actually? What's the UK's Producers?
It's collection of producers who produce content for different genres for Nollywood. You have people who produce interviews, documentary, films, movies for Nollywood. So we all came together to make the industry stronger, and I joined exactly about 2.5 years ago, and I have been trying to make more people aware that the guild actually exists, and we've had quite a number of new joiners in the last 2 years, and it's moving bit by bit.
Oh, that's beautiful. Before we come back to you personally, I would still like to know more about this UK Producers Guild. You said it's is it just Nigerian producers only,
No,
or it's
we have Cameroonian members, we've got South African members, we've got Nigerian members, Ghanaian members as well, Sierra Leonean members. So we've got people, scattered from all over the place. Provided you create content for Nollywood, and if you want to know more about the guild, you can go to the website. It's UK Producers Guild. Nollywood UK Producers Guild.com.
right. Okay, that's beautiful. So in this case, it means there's a bit of a collaboration with the Actors Guild of Nigeria and then the UK Producers Guild. And do they work together or they're just separate?
Well, first and foremost, you have to put into context that everybody has an independent company that they use to produce their films. So everybody just came together, and in the last 2 years that I joined, we've had 2 film festivals back to back. I was one of the executive members that helped put that together for the first major edition. There's another one that has happened. We were supposed to be having another one this year, 2020. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, everything has been put on hold for obvious reasons.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that good. I think that sums it all now. Yeah, so let's go into Mr. Marc Adebesin. So I read a bit and I saw your short film, Tied Up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You actually got an award for that as the best short film then. That was in 2016. How was it for you doing that and then getting an award for it?
It was my first production ever, because before I stepped into the industry, I took my time to watch a lot of content, to learn a lot, because I wanted to create something that was very different and unique. And the first thing I wanted to do was a dance movie. But after speaking to a bit of more experienced colleagues in the industry, they advised it will be too big a project to do as my first project. And I was advised, and I took on to that advice to create a short film, which by the time you create a short film, one, you've reduced the risk of spending too much and end up regretting. Two, you end up finding out what you did wrong if you do a short film, so that when you're doing a feature film, you'll be able to put into context what you did right and what you did wrong. And you would have a log of lessons learned, and then you can pick from those lessons learned and say, okay, when I'm now going into a feature film, then I can be able to learn from some of these things I did wrong in the short film. So I did the short film to learn a lot of things, and it was not a bad decision at all. I think it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, when it comes to not rushing headlong into a feature film that could end up costing you 30, 40, 50 grand. You plunge it into it and then you now start learning lessons. It's not a good way to learn lessons. It's because a good 90% of the films that are created for Nollywood, that are Nollywood content based, are produced and directed by independent filmmakers. Nollywood is not strong enough the way Hollywood is in terms of getting a lot of financial entrepreneurs plunging into the industry. It's not yet fully commercially sustainable as an industry. There are people who, that's what they do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but it's not an industry that people feel 100% comfortable without having a full functional plan B or a plan C or another source of income.
That's good. That's good. Well understood. Also, I would like to talk about your other production. I think that was in 2017, The Talking Dolls.
Yeah.
The history of that, to be frank, I noticed you got nominated 44 times, 44 nominations and 17 awards. That was like, wow, that's a lot. It's something I didn't look into it, and I was like, oh, why so much nomination and all the awards and all that? I saw that your films are actually really good picture quality, arrangement and all that. Well, yes, I'm African, I'm Nigerian, but I'm not that person that's always into the African movies, to be frank. But when I watched a few recently before the interview, I was like, I see where this is coming from. So I was really impressed, I must say. So I'm really honored that you actually came on this. How do you feel with all these achievements? What can you say about it, really?
Well, it's first and foremost is all about collaboration, because when you collaborate, you bring a lot of people together to produce something. You are only as strong as your team. Without a good team, you would not come out with a good product. It's just the way it is. The owner of the story was the director at that time, Sukomi Oduwole. He sent the story to me, and at that point in time, I was working on a project that was quite intensive. And he kept on checking up on me if I've read the script. So I, for the sake of argument, I opened the first 3 pages, read the first 3 pages, and I put the script down. And for good 3 weeks, I couldn't read it. So every single time he called me, I said, I've started reading it, which was the truth. I had started reading it. So I had a Saturday, partially free, because obviously I watch Premiership either on Saturday or Sunday. I don't play with my football. And I sat down. In an hour, I was done with the script, and I picked up the phone. I called him up and I said, let's do this. I like the story. It's something I'd like to get involved in, and let's produce it. I got off the phone. Apparently, it was like after we had finished shooting the film, he now ended up telling me that when I picked up the phone to call him and said, let's do this, he just said, okay. He dropped the phone without any kind of belief. And it wasn't until I bought some equipment. I bought cameras, I bought a tripod, I bought sound equipment, I bought lighting equipment, and I sent him the invoice and I said, this is the list of the equipment, because I did a lot of research before I went into the industry. And back then, 4K formats for shooting films was pretty much, a very high standard. And I wanted the production quality to be of substantiable value, because I've had some people in the industry who would say, oh, why are you shooting in 4K? Why don't you just shoot in normal HD? And I'm like, I would want a situation where I can create a content that I can sell. And even if I pass away, my children can pick up those same production and sell it, because the majority of the media outlets, they end up buying your content on a non-exclusive deal for a duration of about a year or two. And if you produce something in HD or even 1080p, you could find out that in the next 10, 20 years, nobody wants to touch anything that's HD, because the technology is moving way ahead. I mean, we've got camera phones that now shoot in 4K and the picture quality is, you can get a phone now that will shoot in 48 megapixel, which is extremely high. So the technology is always going, forward. So it was after we finished shooting the film that he called me up and said, when I said I wanted to shoot it, he said, well, that's what people say when they read a good script. There's not quite a number of people who would say, yeah, they want to go ahead. But it wasn't until he saw the invoice and saw the amount that was spent on buying the equipment to procure them, and said, wow, this guy is serious. So we had a planning meeting with the director of photography, a lady from, I think she's half Italian and half Brazilian. And I think she's got some Portuguese blood in her veins as well. So we shot the film. We brought down the AMVCA winner, Daniel and Belinda Effa. During that period, they won AMVCA, and I felt it was a good match. So we brought both of them down here with Mofe Duncan, and we shot it here in UK, and we've never had any regrets shooting that film till date.
So it's really a great achievement with that very movie, yeah, I must say. What would you say now in production level here in the UK and movie production back in Nigeria? What do you think?
Well, now it's a very sensitive subject, and it depends on the set of optics you use to look at that subject and answer that question. Now, we have to look at it from the perspective of an individual. I think my individual, like myself, filmmaking is a passion. It's something I practice Saturday, Sunday, or after 5 o'clock. I have a 9 to 5. My colleagues in Nigeria, they eat, breathe filmmaking 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, for you to put those two individuals on the same pedestal, it will be tough. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And we have to put that into context whenever you're trying to compare those two different entities, because they are different. And I've had my challenges with my colleagues here in the UK, where I've had arguments where people will tell me, oh, why are you wasting time? Why are you always shouting, shooting 4K, shooting 6K, shooting 8K? And, I put my argument across, and, they always come back and say, well, if they're shooting 8K, if they're shooting HD, they will still be able to sell their film at the same place I will be able to sell my film. And I said, well, yes, but they will offer me a better value because of my production quality compared to yours. And it has sunk in with some of my colleagues, but with some of my other colleagues, it hasn't sunk in yet, because we all create content for a different audience. Some of my colleagues create for YouTube, some for Iroko, some for Mibaka, some for Netflix, so we all create content for different audiences. So to bring down one set of audience for the other, it's not necessarily the right approach. So comparing people that shoot films in Nigeria and the guys that shoot here in UK, that is the basis on which I think is best to analyze that question first before I digress into it and say, okay, the reasons why UK films are such and such and Nigerian films are such and such is because of XYZ. Now, you also have to put into context the fact that some filmmakers in UK shoot content for people in Nigeria, and some of my colleagues do not put some things into context. For example, you shoot a film for the Nigerian audience and you do not do a lot of due diligence to find out what is the impact of each scene to your typical Nigerian audience. If you look at the top 70 films on Wikipedia, top Nollywood grossing films in Nigeria cinemas, you would find out that a good chunk of them, good 60 to 75% of them are comedy based. Majority of them are rom-coms, the like of your Chief Daddy, Wedding Party, The Vendor. You've got, and I think there's going to be a paradigm shift, because Nigerians at the moment is a country where a typical young man like myself would go through stress. To work, driving back home. You don't expect me to come back home and start watching a film where I have to crack my brain. I want to just go in there, laugh, come out of the cinema, I'm happy. That's one of the reasons why people like AY will do a show. It's comedy, people want to laugh. It's the in thing right now. He gets his soul sold out. I mean, that doesn't take away from the fact that AY is a media guru and a guru at what he does. So that's one spectrum of it all. And the other spectrum is, I think there's still going to be a paradigm shift where serious filmmakers will also be able to generate the kind of money that is being generated from rom-coms. And if you look at films like King of Boys, you look at films like Living in Bondage, which I think Living in Bondage, for me, for now, is one of the best in films in terms of production quality that has come out of Nollywood so far. Ramsey did a fantastic job on that. I really appreciated what he did. I think it's a fantastic film. He made over 160 million or thereabout, I think, on top of my head. You know, a rom-com would make 2-3 times more than that. So we're still at a place where once that paradigm shift comes in, you would see that people will start to watch more serious films, because Living in Bondage is a serious film, and for a lot of people, especially for people like us in diaspora, we appreciated it a whole lot more because it was serious. We're not as stressed as our people in Nigeria, to be candid. I mean, take a typical example. Right now, a third mainland bridge is being blocked, and they expect everyone to go to Ojolegba to get to the island. Even when the bridge was not blocked, it was hell getting to the island and getting back. So it's stress on its own.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
It's true. You're right. You're right. Yeah, the challenges they face back home is way different from one thing.
Yeah, correct.
Actually, picked up for what you were saying about the kind of equipment you use while producing your movie. Yeah. Is that how the movies are now being categorized for publishing, for views, when you're trying to market your content? Yeah. They price it based on the quality you're bringing in, or when you speak. Yeah, go on. No, I'm done. I just want to know, like, if that's how.
When you talk about production quality, there's a lot of things you have to put into context. You've got your sound production, you've got your video production, you've got the type of cast you bring on board, the type of locations you use, the type of equipment you shoot with. Now, you've got a film like Banana Island Ghost. I had a friend who walked into the cinema and came out and said, one of you drone, if you buy a film, meaning that there was a lot of drone shots, which gave that film a good production value. Because I also had a friend who called me up and said, Mark, I saw Banana Island Ghost on Netflix. Was it Netflix, or he saw it online somewhere? And he said the sea, the ocean in Nigeria was pure blue, which was an attribute for how it was graded. Whoever graded that film made the ocean blue like that. But it was beautiful. It painted Lagos in a totally different light. Seriously, I mean, what we shoot in Nollywood, we have to be candid. We deliver magic for the value we spend on what we get out of Nollywood. I mean, I've had people who say, what is a significant budget to shoot a Nollywood film? And it's a multi-dimensional question. Let's take sound as a typical example. I've got colleagues that I speak with about sound, where I tell them, they say they want to do sound, they want to do 5.1. I said, okay, what do you understand by 5.1 in the first place? And the penny drops. They can't answer that question. In Nigeria as a whole, you only have one cinema that does 5.1, and I'll explain what I mean by 5.1. 5.1 has to do with, for example, you buy a DVD set, your subwoofer is there. The 0.1 represents the subwoofer. Yeah. So you've got your two speakers, which are your front, left and right, your rear, left and right, and then your subwoofer is .1, which is the 5.1. So that comprises your 5 speakers. Now you've also got another type of sound category that is called 2.0, and you have 2.1. 2.1 is your left speaker, your right speaker, and your 0.1 is your subwoofer. So you have a lot of people who spend money on doing sound for 5.1. Some people do it for 2.1 or 2.0. There's really nothing wrong in you doing it for 5.1. If you think you'll be able to sell it to a place like Netflix. If you go to Netflix, you see, if you on your drop-down list on your category per film, you see 2.2, 2.1, 5.1. You will see all those categories there. A lot of people don't know what it means. If you set your sound quality to 5.1 while you are watching it, and your surround speaker can only handle 2.0 or 2.1, all you get is that effect. So I have colleagues who say they want to do 5.1, and I'm like, there's only one cinema in the whole of Nigeria that does 5.1. My advice for colleagues like that is always do your film with 2.1, but keep your original file format. So in case a company like Netflix approaches you and say they want to buy it, they will ask you the golden question: is your film in 2.2, 2.1, or 5.1? You can tell them, I will get you 5.1. So that means you have to go back to the drawing board with your sound designer and say, can you please uplift what you've done for 2.0 or 2.1, uplift it to 5.1. If Netflix look at your film at 5.1, trust me, they would pay you a whole lot more. That's for sound. Now, you've got films where you use drone shots. Depending on how you use it and how effective and efficient it is, it will help your production value. It's another thing to showcase the DNA of the landscapes you used to shoot the film. It enhances and gives the viewer a view of what it looks like to shoot in these particular types of locations. It could be a day shot, it could be a night shot. There's a lot you can do with drones. The quality of your recording equipment is another thing. That's another ball game entirely. I wouldn't want to digress into that right now. And then the quality of the cameras and the format in which you shoot. I remember there was a time I shot the film and I used a tripod all through. I would never shoot a film going forward with one camera unless I really have to. I would never shoot a film using a tripod without having, a steady cam to capture movement shots, or, to try and use drones to get a lot of movement, because I love movement. That's another thing I think Nollywood has really, really improved on over the years. We've now incorporated a lot of movement shots, because if you look at a lot of films we shot back in the days, a good percentage of them were shot on tripods. So we're pretty much still shot. So we're moving away from that. We're now getting a lot of producers and directors who are now using a lot of Steadicam, track and dolly, to create a different types of dynamics in terms of how we frame and how our composition and even our lighting has improved tremendously. There are quite a number of people I've worked with in Nigeria that I would classify as some of the best director of photographies we have in Nigeria.
Do you want to give names?
Wow. Taiwo Adele is one of them. Adedapo Idowu is one of them. These are director of photographies that I've worked with, and I've seen what they've done. I love the way they light, the way they compose shots, and composition is something I pride myself in. And when it comes to lighting a set, me as a director, I tend to rely heavily on my director of photography for how I light the set, because it's not my strong area in terms of being able to light the set myself. So I always put my hands up and say, this is your area, do your
Yeah, that's good. Really nice. Very good points, because there are different areas that you have to put in place to be able to market your product. Really. Okay, that's fine. You spoke about the growth in the industry, that's the Nollywood industry. Yeah. With the high level and the because I notice now we have a lot of mainstreams coming up now for movie production and movie producers and marketers. Most people are just setting up different things where you can put your movies online. People go to watch movies online. Do you think this is a good direction now for Nollywood? Is it going to be about
100% yes. And the reason why I would say 100% yes is the way things used to be back in the days. And even when I say back in the days, I'm talking about just 3-4 years down the line, because I would still classify myself a newbie compared to some of my other colleagues who have been there for years. I'm still learning with every single production, with every single day going forward. There are not many platforms that acquire content. You've got Netflix, you've got Roku, you've got Ibaka, you've got African Magic, and you've got very few, far and fetched in between. And the quality, in terms of the cost and the price that is being offered on other platforms, is not much. So the more platforms that are available to buy that content to help recuperate some of the revenue that has been spent to produce the production end to end, it's highly welcome. The more platforms we have out there, the better it is for us. And one of the biggest downfall of Nollywood as a whole, in terms of how Nollywood is being seen, especially in Africa, is the lack of infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, I'm talking broadband infrastructure. Imagine if Africa has access to broadband internet services the way we do here in Europe. I think you would have tons of business rolling in funds, tons of businesses being able to generate larger revenue and turnovers than they do at the moment. But because we lack that infrastructure, so even if you go now and set up a TV station and you also set up a streaming platform side by side with it, you have to ask yourself, a typical Nigerian man is more concerned about being able to live a better quality life before he will be spending another 10, 20,000 per month on broadband, on his phone, on his laptop, to get access to be able to watch different types of content. I mean, I could put on my Netflix here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I won't get bothered because I have unlimited broadband. And it's not like that at the moment in Africa. We're getting there where I think an unlimited subscription, I think on top of my head, costs roughly 20,000 naira. It's getting better with every passing year. And I think the NCC, especially in Nigeria, are trying to break more barriers and trying to change regulations. And I think it's only going to get better for Africa as a whole.
All right, that's beautiful. I actually asked that question because I had an argument with a friend of mine because I was talking about the online streaming platform keeps increasing in Nigeria. Everywhere, everybody's creating something. I, for one, was saying that is going to cut down the piracy level of our movies because I don't think we have loads of people still doing the DVDs, even though we don't have very good internet.
Now, that's also another very sensitive subject, and I'll tell you why it's very sensitive. DVD at the moment is now becoming an item for the museums. I cannot remember the last time I put on my DVD player.
Thank you.
Now my DVD player, I've got a 5.1 surround system on it.
I don't even have one.
So I got a new TV a couple of months back, and connecting wires all over the house to my DVD became very daunting experience. And I just looked at the whole DVD and I put it on Facebook Marketplace and sold it for $40 or $60. I was let go that for how much I sold it. So I went on Corey's and I bought a 5.1 surround system. I had a Colby soundbar with my subwoofer. It was wireless, so I could put the subwoofer somewhere else, put my soundbar somewhere else, and it gave me that cinema experience. So, for me, we're moving at the speed of light in terms of how gadget is even changing now. Yeah. I mean, the laptop I'm using to do this interview with you now is about 4 or 5 years old. I can almost guarantee my mobile phone, the camera on this may even be stronger than this one on this laptop. So technology has come a long way and it's still growing, and it's growing very, very fast. I wouldn't want to go into technology because that's another core area. Yes. If I go into technology now, I might end up speaking about the likes of Huawei, who is now being sanctioned by the government in UK and the government in America, where they are not going to be allowed to use their equipment to set up telecommunication infrastructure, which I think would have a tremendous negative effect on people across the globe to be able to latch on to 5G technology going forward. I think there's a lot of conspiracy theories about 5G technology, and I think the government of the day, and all parts of the globe they are part of that so-called politics.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, you agree with me that it's going to cut down piracy level.
100%.
Yeah, so that's good. So I want the debate now.
Yeah, it is, because back in the days you find yourself on Maryland Bridge in a downfall, and you will see like DVD. People want to sell DVDs. That doesn't happen anymore. All they sell now is recharge card. And one of the core reasons why they sell recharge card, people have to make phone calls. People have to watch movies on their phone or on their devices in their houses. So it's changed the dynamics of where they get the content from. And because they didn't get the content from on a different platform, it changes even how piracy happens now. So piracy has changed tremendously, and it has blocked some people's source of income, and it has opened another set of revenue from another source of income for people.
Thank you so much. Before we let you go, we would like to ask a few more questions, really. I would like to know, since you've been in the industry, like you said, it's not been very long, but still, everyone face all sorts of challenges as they go. So what has been your own greatest challenge so far?
My biggest challenge has been acceptability of when you shoot a film in UK. Yeah. You'll find that your production value is highly lowered. So typical example, let's say I spend 100,000 to produce a film here in UK, and I take that same 100,000 and I go and shoot a film in Nigeria. I can guarantee you, I shoot the same story using Nigerian cast in Nigeria. My return on investment is almost tripled, if not doubled, at the very minimum. So shooting in UK is not as commercially viable as it is as shooting in Nigeria. That's one. Financing film has been something that has been done by my personal finances. I've not been opportuned to get investments to shoot film for commercial purposes, for return on investment for investors. So it's been very challenging getting investment. Getting flying cast down from Nigeria, from Cameroon, South Africa has been more challenging because obviously you have to spend a big chunk of your budget on bringing those casts down from Africa. Because one thing is, if you do a poster, one of the first few things a typical audience wants to see, they want to see known faces. And if you put a face that is not well known, obviously you won't get to put bombs on the seats and faces and eyes on the screen when you get to the cinema. So for me, for now, it's more challenging shooting here in UK. Hence the reason why the last two films I directed, I had to go to Nigeria, and I'm going to Nigeria depending on how the pandemic pans out. I have 2 films I still need to shoot before the tail end of this year. Fingers crossed.
Okay, that's good. I was actually going to come down to that, to ask about anything that's cooking. If there's another awesome thing coming out soon. Yes, you just spilled. Can we hear more about that project now, please? You've spilled it.
There are 3 projects I'm working on at the moment.
Okay.
2 of them are ready to go. They're ready to be shot.
Okay.
One of them is called Dice. The other is called What Happened at St. James's. And there's one that I think we may have to push that till next year. It's called The Mechanic. And I think those 3 productions are things that, we should all look forward to. There's a film I've shot already anyway, which was supposed to be in the cinemas for May. Unfortunately, the pandemic has not let that happen. So that film might end up being pushed till the tail end of this year, or possibly even January next year. So those are some of the things that we have in the pipeline for this year.
That's beautiful. Can't wait to see all that. So with you as a producer, do you have anyone you look up to as a mentor or something?
when you speak about mentor, in terms of being a director, in terms of being an actor, in terms of,
It can be from any angle. Who do you actually just look up to, the like that challenges you kind of, or helps you or guides you through whatever you're doing?
yeah, I would say an individual I look at, and I get a lot of
Inspiration.
positive vibes when I look at his work, is Denzel Washington. He's got
Okay.
a wide range. I've seen him play all sorts of characters in movies, and his delivery has been epic. I mean, you look at a film like Equalizer, you look at Fences, you look at Training Days, and those are films on that you look at from different spectrums. And when you do look at them, you say, "Oh, how did he come up with a fast-paced action thriller film? How does he do love films?" And the way he falls into character is epic. He's an individual I admire sincerely. So that is somebody I look up as a mentor for now.
Oh, that's beautiful, really. Thank you so much for all that. This question wasn't there before, but I just decided to ask you because you spoke about your challenges, which I think about the financial aspects. With the fact that you're a member of the Nollywood UK Producers Guild, do you or don't you get any support from the government here in the UK to push forward?
That's a very sensitive question. About a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
I won an award for one of as best director for one of my films, and we were honored at the Nigerian embassy by the ambassador. And we went there. On getting there, we were given an open floor to ask a couple of questions. And one of the questions I asked the ambassador back then was, what kind of support can we get from the embassy? Even if we do not get financial support, could we get support where we are allowed to shoot in the embassy, as a typical example, or property in London that belongs to the embassy? And the reply I got was a bit shocking. And the reply was, I think, as at that time, I can't remember, he mentioned a figure that, I can't remember on top of my head how much the figure was, but I think it was 47 billion naira that was, that Nollywood generates. And, getting that as a figure back then, I said, yeah, but even if that was the figure that is being generated, I'm only a small dot in the whole minutiae of how much is being generated. And that money has been generated by a lot of independent filmmakers. You've got the likes of Kunle Afolayan, Muabudu. These are all individuals that have put time, energy, and money into the industry to get the industry to where it is. So it has been a collective effort of independent filmmakers trying to make a big, gigantic engine move. And the more support we get from the government, the better it is for us as an industry. Hollywood did not get to where it is without the support of the government. The typical American citizen is patriotic because of the type of films that the Hollywood Guild and the way and manner in which it change the perspective of which your typical audience looks at what it means to be an American citizen. You've got films that were created for that sole purpose. Go and watch films like Pearl Harbor. You're proud to be an American. Go and watch films like Rocky. Those films were films that were they sat down to analyze those films, and they made your typical citizens patriotic towards the cause of being an American. So if the Nigerian government wants Nigerian filmmakers to make films towards that perspective, I think a share investment needs to be made towards that. I'll give you a typical example. A colleague of mine shot a film called Coming from Insanity. It was a brilliant film. It was a serious film. It was a action trailer film, and the ending, because I watched the film here in UK, and I finished watching the film, and I said, I looked at the director. I said, it's a friend of mine. I said, it's a fantastic film, not bad. And his reply to me was, the film you watched and the film people in Nigeria watched, the ending is different. I said, what do you mean? And he said, and I quote, the Nigerian Film Censors Board did not allow that film end like that. I said, why? It's a true life story. Why did it end like that? And I was told, because the filmmakers need to put a cautious effort into changing the perspective of which Nigerians see Nigerians. They need to end the film with the fact that the guy was captured. I'm like, but in true life, the guy wasn't captured. And he said they didn't give it a license unless we needed to lie to say that the guy was captured in the end of the film. So those little things, they have a ripple effect. If you want us to create content to showcase the norms, the ethics of your typical Nigerian citizens, if you want us to have a paradigm shift, then you need to invest in it. Rather than telling, you have an independent filmmaker who wants to make his full return on investment. He wants to invest £100 and he wants £100 back. He's going to say the first thing is, if that is all I want to achieve, then if rom-com are the type of films that make money back, I'm investing my filming. I'm investing my funds in rom-com. Shoot me rom-com. I want to make my money back. It doesn't satisfy what your typical Nigerian Film Censors Board or your Nigerian government would like to see. It changes the dynamics when you also look at the fact that if you want that to happen, there needs to be a strategy in place and say, these are the things we want to see. When I grew up, I worked films like Crocodile at Dawn, Mirror in the Sun, Village Headmaster, I've forgotten this other one, Basia and Company. These are films that when you watch, they will teach you a lesson.
Yeah, sure.
Have an impactful lessons of karma, of religion, of psychological bias. They taught us norms, they taught us ethics, what was right, what was wrong. But now, every single individual in Nigeria, I take that back. You have the youth of today, they look up to the likes of Hush Puppy and say they want to be like Hush Puppy. Hush Puppy is an innocent citizen until he's proven guilty. But when you look at what's been happening, you pick stories like that and you tend to tread the fabric of what we are doing now. There's a lot that still needs to be done in Nollywood, and we're going to get there. It's just going to take time.
That's a good one. I'm sure those that will be watching this will actually pick the answer.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really nice having you on this talk show. Thanks for joining us. God bless you.